Okay, so for this project, we're going to sort of look at some of the settings that we're always going to do when we're adding a sprite into our project, at least when we're doing pixel art. So I'm going to switch over to the multi-view here so that you can see what I'm going to do. And so basically what I have already done is I have gone into my sprites folder, and notice I've got an underscore scenes, animation, font, scripts, sprites folder in my assets folder right here to sort of default project setup, sort of the convention that we use in this class. In my sprites folder, I have gone ahead and I have, ignore those messages, I have gone to import new asset, and then I have selected the PNG file that we downloaded earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this sprite, and I need to make some changes. Now my camera is currently set to 84, so I've sort of zoomed out from its default size of 5. And on my Tommy sprite, here's what I'm going to change. I'm going to change my pixels per unit to 100. You'll see if I drag this into my hierarchy, like you literally can't even see it because it's basically 100 times too small. So when we're doing these pixel graphic pixel art style projects, we're going to change our pixels per unit to 1 instead of 100. We're also going to change our filter mode from bilinear to point. That's going to make Tommy nice, crisp, and clear. So if you're blurry, you probably have a bilinear filter mode. And then we're going to change the compression from normal quality to none. We don't want to compress this at all. It's a pixel graphic, so it's a pretty small file as is. We're going to click apply, and then we're going to click the sprite mode. This is a sprite sheet. There's multiple frames of an animation in this one file. We're going to change it from this Tommy, if you look right here, it's sort of 3 Tommies. We'd want one of those sort of in rapid succession to create the animation. So what we're going to do, I just undid that. I'm going to change single to multiple, and I'll click sprite editor, and I'll click apply. I want to apply the change before I edit it. That's going to open up the sprite editor window, which you'll see right over here. And I'm going to slice this by, the type is not going to be automatic, but instead by grid by cell count. And so there are 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, 1 row. So I'm going to say there are 3 columns, 1 row. I'm going to click slice, and then you'll see that I have the 0th, 1st, and 2nd Tommy right here. Click apply, and so now I can exit out of the sprite editor, and I have 3 of these frames right here. I'm going to click on the 0th one, hold the shift key, and click on the 2nd one. That'll grab the 1st one in between, and I'm going to drag all of these into my hierarchy. Now, if you're on a PC, this next step is going to be a little bit different just because you have a different folder application or directory structure. You have the Explorer window. We have Finder here on a Mac. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the animation file. So it's going to create 2 files. One is a controller, one is an animation file. I'm going to name it run, and I'm going to put it in, remember we have an animations folder inside of our assets folder, so that's where all the animation files are going to go. I'm going to go ahead and click save, and then that should give you, let me zoom out of the scenes window right here, that should give you an animated character right here. If we look in our hierarchy, we can see that this Tommy _0 game object, it has a number of different components attached to it. By default, it has the transform. Every game object has a transform position. Once this is done thinking, there we go. I'll show you the transform right here. So it's at 0, 0, 0. It's got a sprite renderer, and so that's what allows us to sort of see the still Tommy. You can see it's currently cycling through those because it has an animator component with an animation controller called Tommy _0. In my animation folder, I'm going to stop this really quickly. In my animation folder, here's that Tommy _0 controller. And if I click on my game object and I look at the animator panel, I can see, well, here is the animation file, the run animation file that is controlling the animations. Now in a future lesson, we will set up different animation states in the animator controller file to basically change what Tommy is doing depending upon various conditions. In order to add in the next couple of steps, what we're going to do is click on Tommy. We're going to add 2 components. The first one is going to be a rigid body 2D. So I'm going to search rigid body 2D, not the rigid body, that's for a 3D game. And what that'll do is it'll add physics to this game object. And so it has a gravity scale of 1. When I press play, it might take a second to spin up and think. It's going to sort of bring Tommy down. The gravity is going to sort of pull him down because we have that component. We're going to add one additional one additional component, which is going to be an original script called hover that's going to counteract the gravity that is applied. The computer's going a little bit slow because I'm trying to record and do all this stuff at the same time, so it'll look a little bit crisper on your screen. I'm going to add a component one more time. This time I'm adding the hover script, and the hover script is a script that I've already created. If you haven't created it, you'll go to your scripts folder, right click, and create a new C# script. And my hover script is available on the class website, and basically what that is doing is it is counteracting gravity. There's a simple if statement that is detecting if you've pressed any key, and if any key has been pressed, then it's adding an upward force, and that is going to be multiplied by this variable called hover power, which by default is set to 300, which we can change in the component right here. So we can change that to 500 or whatever we want. So now if I press play, you'll see that gravity brings Tommy, the game object, down. But if I click, then gravity is gonna, or not gravity, but the hover power is going to fight against gravity and bring him up, as you see right here. All right, our next couple of steps are going to be to repeat this process, not the entirety of it, but to import a new asset that we're going to call, or that is going to be, let me get it from my downloads folder, inside my assets folder right here, and let me go to pillar. All right, so now the pillar, we're going to do many of those same steps again. We're going to click on it. We're going to change our pixels per unit to 1. We're going to keep it as a sprite mode single because it is just a single sprite. We'll change our filter mode to point. We'll change our compression to none. We'll click apply, and now we can bring our pillar into our hierarchy right here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'll use the move tool right here to position this down towards the bottom of my screen and over into the middle just a little bit. And I'm going to add a component called a box collider 2D. I'm going to add a box collider 2D also to my Tommy character right here. And so now when, let me get that, box collider 2D, when the two game objects collide with each other, you'll see that Tommy basically stops falling. So at the conclusion of the collision, I will stop this video. Oh, it's thinking. It wants to go. Wait for it. Ready, set. Here it is, and the collision has taken place.